Hey, what's going on, guys? Greg here today, bringing you guys a Call of Duty Modern Warfare gameplay commentary, and this is going to be subscriber review number 6. So, I decided to watch over the video, and then this time I have notes here I took from the gameplay I watched, and I want to know if you guys like this format a little bit better for the subscriber review series instead of me just kind of live reacting and giving tips based off that, because I feel the organization is not really there whenever I make a video like that. So just let me know in the comment section below which way you'd prefer. Anyways, today I'm going to go over these tips for Promenade because I finally am able to see here on some ways Promenade plays. And to be honest with you, I kind of did know about using the jump spots and stuff you'll see throughout this gameplay, but then again, I just personally don't enjoy Promenade, and that's the main reason I just don't really tend to play this map. But getting into the tips that we can learn from this subscriber review, one of them is transferring between lanes using the dumpsters, the boxes, vehicles, and other objects throughout the map. So what I mean by this is you'll see that on the left, right lanes, as well as throughout the middle of the map, you'll see that there are various objects you can jump up on and transfer in and out of the middle of the map based off of these objects. And the reason you want to be utilizing these in your gameplay on Promenade is simply because it's going to allow you to flank your enemies a little bit easier. So whenever you're playing on Promenade, as you know, this is a very tight 3-lane map, much like Call of Duty 4's Wet Work, and this map in general is going to cater a lot more towards defensive play because everything is right in front of you. So snipers, assault rifles, light machine guns are going to be the more common weapons you see, but that doesn't mean you can't use something like a submachine gun and run around flanks and all that kind of stuff in order to have success on this map. So for the second tip I'm going to give is hug cover. And what I mean by this is I want you to think about it when you're pushing one of the outer lanes or even the middle lanes, and you should be doing this on any map, but I think this really shines on Promenade, is what you want to do is you want to be thinking about whenever you are pushing a lane, the cover that you are going to be trying to hide behind, so that way enemies don't have angles on you and they won't be able to shoot you. And this might be whenever you have an instance where you die to somebody and you're like, wow, I was already around cover, but in reality, you weren't because of how camera angles work in games. So, what I mean by this is you want to be thinking, and you want to be actively thinking while you are pushing different lanes and pieces of cover is, am I going to be exposed to the enemy's camera whenever I am pushing this way? And this is going to come with playtime and, of course, experimenting, dying, and watching kill cams and all that kind of stuff. And I can make a video, if you guys really want, of me breaking down on what I'm trying to say here. But in simplest terms, it's basically you want to hug pieces of cover as you're pushing, and you want to make sure that you are staying hidden from different camera angles that enemies might have on you. Now for the third tip, you'll see that in this gameplay, whenever our player here gets his advanced UAV, and he calls up that advanced UAV, he takes some time to start talking to people in chat because his team is not pushing up. So what he's doing is basically telling them, come on guys, we have an advanced UAV, push up. Do not use the chat unless you have a keyboard plugged into your console, or if you're on PC, you'll probably obviously have a keyboard. But the reason I recommend this is because you are taking so much precious time out of the game, especially whenever you have an advanced UAV up. You do not want to be wasting that advanced UAV because you could be getting rotations off, you could be getting to an area where the enemies, might not be yet, and you could try to gain map control for your squad that you're in. There's so many different reasons that you don't really want to be wasting time chatting in, and you'll see that this is a thing that happens with a lot of teams, that whenever there's a really good player on either team that's absolutely dominating the team, you'll start seeing that people start opening up chat and they're frustrated and they'll start saying, oh, cheater, cheater, and all this other kind of stuff. But in reality, all that's happening is you're allowing your team to get further pushed back into the spawn, which means that that good player on the other team is only going to continue to streak up and just keep you guys spawn trapped. And overall, I just don't recommend typing out your frustrations in the game. I recommend either using your microphone to communicate with your team, or just ignoring the frustrations at all and just focus entirely on the gameplay that you're trying to go for, or just the match that you're in. Just try to focus as hard as you can on that and don't let the little things get to you. Tip number 4 I have is for you guys to wait for teammates to push up before attacking. And what I mean by this is there's a lot of people to take on at once on this map, and the reason I say this is because there's 16 people on each team. Now, because this map is so strict and tight with that 3-lane design, you're really going to have a lot of action come to you at once. For example, they're pushed back all the way to E here. So that means the majority of the enemy team is probably going to be closer to D and pushed up on head glitches or on the different lanes with sniper rifles or whatnot. So what you're going to want to do is, if you're ever in a situation on this map and you look at the radar and you're the only person so far who has pushed up, or the only person in that position you're at, you're going to want to try to wait for teammates to push up, so that way you're not basically having a 1 versus 16. Now obviously if you're on a flank and you're running that flank, then you might want to get a couple kills and then dip, because, you know, if you kill a couple people, generally a few more people are going to start turning around. You know, maybe someone calls you out, people are going to start communicating to their team, and then that's going to be bad for you. So I would definitely recommend that you go ahead and you make sure that you are waiting for teammates to push up before you decide to attack, if you're in a position that permits that. So for tip number 5, let's go ahead and talk about the streaks you should be running when you're playing Promenade. And I'm going to say this: advanced UAVs might get you nukes, but they also might entice DEFCONs too, so you want to be careful of that in case you are not trying to get a DEFCON, but they will also help you get out of sticky situations. One of the things I do want to say though is I find the advanced UAV to be a little bit less useful on this map. Don't get me wrong, it is still a very strong kill streak and is still one of the best kill streaks in the entire game, regardless of what map you're on, but you can kind of predict where people are always going to be on this map, considering of how tight the 3 lanes are on this map. So again, it's up to you if you really want to use the advanced UAV, but if you are looking for situations where maybe you're afraid your team just might not be that good and you really feel like you need to give the firepower to win the match, the gunship, the white phosphorus, VTOL, all those kind of streaks on this map absolutely dominate. So again, just a little bit of a heads up on what kind of streaks you should expect to run. And also, one thing I did want to make mention real quick is whenever you do call up an advanced, make sure that you are in a position to capitalize the most on it, especially if you're going for a nuke, because in the gameplay, real quick here, I just want to go over this. You guys saw that he called up that advanced UAV and there wasn't really too many people around, so maybe it would have been best to actually rotate back a little bit and try to get a little bit more kills on the people that are not paying attention to you, since everybody was basically turned facing E. Now, for tip number 6 is, I know that a lot of people get frustrated by dying, and you have to kind of think about it this way. This map is going to have a meat grinding nature, so I just wanted to say that real quick, that you can't expect to get one of the, a very, very high KD on this map, because generally people are always going to be staring in the direction that you're going to be coming from, simply because there isn't much depth to this map, so it doesn't really take a lot to go on flanks, because there really aren't too many flanks. Especially whenever you're more in a spawn trap scenario like how this was going for this team. So if you're ever in this scenario, just try your best to put a streak together. Don't focus too hard on trying to keep your KD up high or anything like that. Don't focus too hard on that. Just focus on trying to build up a streak if you possibly can do it, but don't stress too hard if you can't. Now, number 7 for the tips here is, use the jump spots that you might want to use to rotate between the outer flanks of the map and also the middle of the map to actually challenge the snipers that will sit on top of the E building. And the reason I say this is because, if you guys don't know, sniping is kind of one-sided here on Promenade. There isn't really many good sniper spots if you're spawning on the AHQ. Now, if you're on the EHQ, you have this angled building that's kind of like the one on Verdansk Riverside, and that building is where a lot of snipers will tend to sit on, because they have clear lines of sight all the way through the middle, the left and the right flanks, and they'll be able to get a lot of easy picks, streaks, and all that kind of stuff on you. So what I recommend is, if you're trying to challenge these guys, trying to take them on, the best thing you can do is to try to use these little jump spots, maybe a little bit further back. If you are, maybe getting spawn trapped or whatnot, try to jump up on one that might be a little bit further back, so that way, you're not close to the action. But you want to use these spots to be able to challenge those snipers at long range in case they are streaking up and you need to kill them off their streaks. So make sure you're utilizing these jump spots in order to counter those snipers. But then again, you also want to make sure you understand where that sniper is aiming at for the majority of the game, since people tend to have a lot of tunnel vision on this map. So once you know that, you can kind of try to outplay them and see how it works for you. Finally, the last tip I have for you guys for this map is do not be afraid to grab the APC. And the reason I say this is the APC is generally often avoided by good players. A lot of good players don't like to use the tanks because they want to try to go on high streaks, they want to try to get streaks, whatnot, and you can't do that with the APC. Also, they just think the APC is skillless. And I'm not here to argue about the tanks or anything like that, because I really feel that they are kind of, overpowered for just being free and given to people. But one thing I do want to make mention of is the APC is a very useful tool regardless of your skill level, and I don't mean you have to use the APC to go around and kill people. What I'm trying to say here is you can grab that APC and drive it up to a flank. Like, let's say you're being spawn trapped at E. You can take that APC and you can drive it all the way up to C, since the majority of the enemies are most likely going to be at D, trying to push you back further into your spawn and maybe entice a defcon or just spawn trap you for free and easy kills. If you take that APC up to C, you can go ahead and get a quick flank off, and you'll be protected while you're flanking because the APC has a lot of health. Not only that, once you get the APC up to C, it's basically a mobile spawn point, since anyone can spawn on an APC regardless if they are in your squad or not, which means you are giving your team free spawns in an area, and you don't actually have to sit in the APC in order for it to be spawns. So you can basically just let it sit there, no one's in it, and it will actually act as a spawn. And if someone wants to spawn on the APC and use it, they can, but you can keep it there as basically a free tack insert for your team. So maybe you haven't thought about that before, but it is a useful tool regardless of your skill level. Anyways, that's all the tips I have based off of this gameplay here on Promenade. Closing up, you guys can see his teammate ends up getting a gunship, which was probably a result of him earning advanced UAVs, and as a result, that gunship, you guys will see, is going to cause a defcon here in the background, and it's going to give them the win. So, those are my tips for Promenade based off of the gameplay I watched here in the background, and let me know what you guys think of this new format for this video. I was originally going to do this as a non-scripted commentary where there were no notes or anything, and I was just going to go over it like I normally would for subscriber reviews, but I decided maybe it's a little bit better to actually go over some of the things I see in the gameplay, as well as, just try to give general tips too based off of what the subscriber is doing. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section below how you would improve this series as well, so that way I can continue to make better content for you guys, as well as better subscriber reviews. Anyways, I also want to make mention real quick, I apologize that there was the prom comeback.mp4 on the screen, as well as the actual bar for the gameplay. I forgot to move my mouse whenever I recorded this, and I simply just did not have the time to re-record the actual footage. Make sure you guys are setting permissions for me whenever I get the gameplay that I can download the file. I have not been able to do that yet in a long time. Maybe the first subscriber review I did, but most of the time I don't have the permissions to download the file, so make sure that that is enabled, as well as for me to view the file and all that kind of stuff, because there's usually some complications that come with that. Google Drive is a little bit finicky with the privacy, so make sure you go ahead and check that out before you send me the gameplay. But anyways, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.